Hey guys, Sanguinetti Mods here, or if that's too hard to pronounce, you can just call me Nick. I'm going to walk you through how to manually port display lists between models in Ocarina of Time, and probably Majora's Mask, though that will be a different video. So you're going to need Utility of Time for viewing textures on models, Hylian Toolbox for just models itself if you want, Object Link Boy, Object SK2, which would be the Stalfos, and a clean debug ROM, or ROM of your choice, though the debug ROM would be better to start with. I will put download links for most of this in the description. Let's get started. First things first, you're going to want to find which model you want to port over. I'm going to I'm more than likely I am going to port the Stalfos sword over the Master Sword. You're going to want to find the Master Sword, which display list this actually is. It's 21F78. I already know that by heart. Left fist plus Master Sword is what usually documented as. And you just pop open a notepad document. And type whatever you wish so you know what it is. And for later purposes, you're going to want to find Link's left fist, since that's not already attached to the Stalfos sword, and it's already 21EC8. I don't need to see textures for that. And that's all you need to know for Object Link Boy. Then you want to find what the Stalfos sword is in Object SK2, and if I remember correctly, it's 6A A8. A48. There we go. You may or may not hear my computer in the background. It's pretty old. Need a new one soon. Yeah. So you finished writing that down. Now, we'll move into the hard part. There isn't an automated feature in Hylian Toolbox to automatically port display lists, so I'm going to teach it to you the way I learned how. You're going to want to open Object SK2 up in a hex editor of your choice. Ctrl G opens up a GoTo window, and you just want to type 6A48 to head to the start of the Stalfos sword display list. And all display lists end at a df command. That's what a df command looks like. That's good to know for later purposes. Anyway, you can just copy that into a new file, and this is the display list, but that's not all you need. This just defines how the model itself is set up. Next, you want to find the vertex data, and that's pointed to by 0, 1 commands. What you can do is Ctrl F, change data type from text string to hex values, and type 0, 1. Now 0, 1 will be either under column 0, 0 or 0, 8, and that's how you know if it's a 0, 1 command or not. This is 1, 0, 1 command. You don't really need to copy it to a new file. I just do because it's easy to keep track of, although you could easily do it in a notepad document. Then you hit F3 to find it again, and if it's under a 0, 8 or 00 column, it is a 01 command. So there are 3 01 commands in this display list itself, and this just shows you how to get the vertex data that you need. The reason there are 3 01 commands is because there are kind of 3 groups, you could call it. It's like group files that you would find in a OBJ file maybe, although modern converters just treat those as separate display lists altogether. Anyway, let's see, the start value of the vertex data, which will be in object SK2, is 5080 or 5080. The format of a 01 command kind of looks like this. Where AA equals the length or the size of bytes, or how many bytes makes up that section of vertex data. BB equals the bank or object file that the vertex data exists in. In this case, it's 06, which means that it's inside the object file that the display list came from, which would be object SK2. And then ZZ would be the offset of where it is. I don't really know what XX is, and in my experience you'll never have to worry about that. So anyway, yeah, the start offset is 5080, and the end offset would be the largest value. In this case it would be 5310 plus the length, which would be CO, and that would just be 5310 plus CO, and that is your end offset of the vertex data. I hope you're with me so far. Just rewatch that part if you need to. Now you just go back in object SK2, you hit go or Ctrl G, go to 5080, then hit Ctrl E to select block, and you have your end offset, which would be 53DO, like I said. And then you take your length and subtract 1, because HXD automatically adds 1 to it, and you don't want that. Hit OK. Then you have your vertex data. I just copy that and paste that into a new file. Next would be your texture data. Now, I don't offhand know how to calculate this. I just use a piece of software that was written for me by Flotonic, and I can put that in the description. I just know offhand that the texture for this is, if I remember correctly, 200 bytes in size. Otherwise, to find the start offset would be, you would Control Find in the display list, FD. FD commands point to textures or palettes. There are no palettes in this particular display list. So that's one FD command. F3 to find again, and There are only 2 FD commands in this display list. Actually, I am going to pause the recording quickly and just calculate it because I don't want to not be sure of myself. And back. This is how the program is set up. And it's easy enough if you know how to use command prompt. You just have your arguments here. Anyway, this produces a text file which documents all the textures and length. In here you just 6848, find it next to display list. Yeah, 220. So that would be 7348. So this would be the like actual material, like the grip of the sword. 200 bytes in length, and 77C8 would be the blade texture. Now it's as simple as just copying, pasting those into new files. Like I said, the bank is 06, so that means it's inside the object file itself. And go to 7348. Select block, Ctrl E, go to length, and then type in 200. There's texture 1. Then go to 77C8, select block 20, and that is texture 2. Now you're done with object SK2. This is all the necessary components of the actual Stolfo sword, and you're ready to port it over. Now open Object Link Boy in your hex editor. And you're going to want to free up some space. All of this, everything in Object Link Boy is currently used by something in the game. An easy way to free up space would be to open him in Hylian Toolbox, if that would open front. Render his hierarchy and just save him. Now what this does, it overwrites his hierarchy pointers, so his body parts don't switch to their low poly model when Link is far away from the camera, but just his body parts. His equipment pointers are elsewhere in the ROM, and Hylian Toolbox does not overwrite those. So what we can do now is find his low poly hierarchy display lists, and we can overwrite those without any problem. And you would just go through his object file quickly. You can already see the lower quality models here. And this would be his low poly waist. I know it's his low poly one because his high poly ones always come later in the display list, and you can see limb 1, which is his high poly waist, is 35330. This switched to his high poly waist, but just by doing that, so I gotta go back. Now this is his high poly waist. So 2F530 is where you're going to be wow, okay. 2F530 is where you're going to be writing the new data. Then you can exit that out. 2F530. Sorry for the absurd time. 15 minutes, wow. Okay, go to 2F530. Then you're going to copy his display list, or the Astolfo's sword display list. You're going to paste right, which is Ctrl B, or if you want to paste right that there. And that is his display list. You'll want to make sure you have the new offset down. Display list. Then you can take the vertex data, paste that right there. So 2F690, which is says the offset right there. 2F690. Vertex data start. And then texture 1. 2F9EO. And then 2FBEO would be texture 2. Sorry. I'm fighting a cold here. Now the last step, not the last step, but the last step importing the display list itself is to recalculate the pointers of the vertex and texture data. So the FD commands are easy. Just find FD. 7348 would be texture 1, and the new offset is 02F9EO. We wrote it down here. And then the second FD command, the new offset is 02FBEO. I typed that wrong. 02FBEO. Now the 01 commands, a little more work involved, but not so much. Okay, 5080, the start would be 2F690. I don't know why I keep doing that. 02F690. Then the next one would be you would add 200 to 2F690. Just open calculator. 2F690 plus 200. You add it because that is the length of that piece of vertex data. So the next 01 command would be 2F890. Zero 2F890. And then you would add 90 to that. 2F920. And that should be your last 01 command. 02F920. And then you have the Astolfo sword ported into his file. And you can go ahead and save this. And the last step would be to go to 21F78, his master sword display list. You'd use a DE command, which appends a different display list to this one. You'd go DE 00000006. That means it's in this object file. 021CE8. That would be his left fist, because you want his left fist to appear. Then you add another one, DE 0602F530, which would be the Stalfos sword display list itself. And then you add a DF command to end this. And you save that. And one last step is to copy this, go to 27078, which would be the low poly version of his master sword. And you don't want this to disappear when he's far away from the camera, so you would just copy what you wrote and paste right it there and save this. Now to import it into the ROM, you go to 00FTC1. This would be his object linked boys start offset. I'll show you how to figure this out. There's a list of the start offsets on the same website where you will download object link boy. I'm gonna just go here, Ctrl A to select all of this, copy this, and paste right it there, and save it. Then you should, after you test it in Project 64, NEMU, or whatever emulator you're using, he should be using the Stalfos sword instead of the Master Sword. Also, one last thing to check to make sure you did it right, you can open this object file in Utility of Time. DE commands are not emulated in Hylian Toolbox or Utility of Time, but you can still find where you ported your display list. It should be 2F something, because I don't feel like looking at the notepad document. And yeah, it looks like we did it right. The textures look like this in Utility of Time for me because my graphics card is pretty bad, but it should look correct in game nonetheless. See, the textures look correct over here. And yeah, your last step is to test it in game, and that's what we can do. Good job if you did it correctly. Alright, now, I'm using Project 64 personally. I was gonna mention another note. Oh yeah, this works with Majora's Mask object files as well. There are certain differences, which I will explain at some point. Just ask me, just to make sure I don't forget. Let's just load up Adult Link in Hyrule Field. And yeah, here we go. He's using the Stalfos sword. You noticed, yeah, the Stalfos sword is right there. His low poly waist display list is a different pointer in the ROM. I will put that in the video description so you can fix this. I forgot that Hylian Toolbox doesn't overwrite that, but looks alright high poly up close. And you can fight stuff with it. Yeah, I'm using the Kokiri shield, blah blah blah. Anyway, that's how you display list port. If you get good enough at it, you can end up doing play as mods, which will be another tutorial of mine. The next video will be showing how to import custom display lists. So that would be your own object file. So, bye, I guess.